But they say now there are where, the minority, the number of minority in this country in 2000 is more than the number of the whole census, the whole population in 1910. Mm-hmm. And we have more minority, more than 10 countries out of the United States. So we have a huge minorities if they are put together.
Right.
And then I think in 2040, there's things that are happening. So that are being counted one way or another. And the 2010, and when you say 1 in every 4 only counted, that's amazing, scary statistic.
It's very scary. And I think that it's very critical because it's just everything that a community needs to be strong and healthy is lost when we're not counted in the census. I think we can compare a few different communities. There's the example of Edina. Everybody in the census everybody in Edina participates in the census.
Oh, I see.
Almost 100%
so
of people
Edina
are counted.
gets more, even if they don't need it.
Absolutely. Well, absolutely.
And the people who don't need it, well, that's a rotten deal. The people who need it the most are not counted.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, is there any way, the census, you actually go and count ever in each one, and ever in each household, and ever in each street, and ever in each corner?
It would be great.
Or the sampling is involved?
It's actually, it's very individual. It's all of our own responsibilities to be counted. So when we don't fill out this form, we're not counted. The government isn't going to count us.
There's no enforcement?
Unfortunately, unfortunately, I mean, depending on how you look at it, nobody's going to count us for us.
So there is no law say you have to, you pay tax, you have to, is there laws that can say you didn't?
We have to get counted, but if we don't get counted, we're invisible. And so the government doesn't even know to try to reinforce. Mm-hmm. If we're not counted, we're invisible, we don't get anything, we don't get any recognition. And so there's no way to enforce something, I think, on people that you don't even know exist.
Uh-huh.
So that's...
You're not interested in. So what response are you getting, Fantune, from the community about this?
From the Somali community?
Yeah.
I think I've told you about housing. That's the biggest one.
What response? Are the people now...
What do they think of the census?
What do they think of the census? Well, I guess...
Do you see change?
Yeah, I think I see much more change because the more that we're going out there educating them as our community centers, and people are more willing, and their responses, once they know what this is really, their response is usually a positive response, and they want to get involved and they want to make a difference.
I mean, do you have an idea how big of a Somali community we have now?
I've heard 80,000, 100,000. I've heard those numbers.
I've heard 100,000 just
and
in
that
the
tells
metro
it,
area.
that makes a point. We don't know.
Absolutely.
It could be 80,000. It could be 200,000. Mm-hmm. And when you're talking about now, the country is really not in a mood to listen to this. They have issues now. We have the conservative with the backlash of Obama. Let's put it that way. And people kind of gone to the other way, which we thought Obama is really going to take us and change America post-Bush. But do you see the mood of Washington and the politicians are really listening to the minority and putting the resources in the census to make sure the minorities are counted? You getting enough?
Well, I think it's hard because politicians aren't going to do the work to make sure our communities are counted. Some of them do. There's some folks who are getting involved in census outreach, which is good.
But we spend money on this.
Yep, lots of money is being spent through the Census Bureau to get the word out about the census. And so they're trying to create materials in other languages and trying to hire people from the community to make sure that we've got the word of mouth happening. We've got all these different levels of media happening in lots of different languages and in lots of different communities. So the money is coming through, and Congress put the money to the Census Bureau to make sure that this was carried out. But I think as far as minorities being heard, our voices being heard, if we're not counted, it's like I said, we're not recognized. Mm-hmm. So if we want to see some changes in our community, if we want to be recognized for as big as we are, if we're not counted, that just won't happen.
And we came a long way. I remember, I don't know what year it was, and I'm looking at the first census, and the classification was white, and free black, and slave. That's how they used it, you know,
yeah.
like free and slave, and white and slave. And it moves. Now we have about, I don't know how many categories. So we came a long way, just the people needs to get involved.
Exactly. That's very true. And that came through people getting involved,
Exactly.
just like you said.
So nobody's going to handle this. You know? And a lot of people, they are just thrilled that people will not count it.
Yeah.
And I know the
Unfortunately,
redesigning of district and all this, there's a lot of politics involved in this. So I you know, what other, you know, in youth in the Dar al-Hijra Islamic Center, what's the mood there? What activities are you doing these days to help to get the community counted?
Well, we've passed out a couple times at the beginning of the fall, census promotional items at our youth events, and we've done. So most of our youth events, we've said something about the census. So in the introduction or throughout the event.
And you know, I probably asked you this before. And the people come to these events. Do you feel that people are excited about this 2010?
I think yes, especially young college students and youth. They're very excited about it. So.
I know the census is involved also sampling to verify these numbers. Do you have an idea how that works? Like
the sampling?
Yeah, so you do sampling to verify the actual count? Because sometimes the sampling is more accurate than the actual count because there is sloppy work and people tired and you cannot count every and each one. So you do sampling.
Well, what they'll do to do some verification, they're going to do some follow-up to households that don't mail back the form. So if you don't want people knocking on your door, you fill out your form right away and mail it back as soon as possible. Otherwise, the Census Bureau is going to send door knockers out up to 6 times.
6 times?
Up to 6 times.
That's harassment. Almost.
Almost, right? And I don't want people knocking on my door, so as soon as I get this in the mail, I'm going to fill it out and send it in.
Get it over with. It takes about 2-3 minutes.
About 10-15 minutes, not too long, not too long. But in comparison to the results of this for being 10 years, 10 minutes isn't
How much language profession do you need to fill this out? It's a simple question.
That's a challenge. It's very simple, and the language guides help. They have what Fantune is holding is almost exactly the same form. It has the same questions, but it's in Somali, and you can use this to fill out the English one.
Oh, I see. So you look at the Somali and you still have to do the English one.
You still have to do the English one, which is unfortunate. I would really like to see that we got forms
so
here.
they don't have to deal with the translation.
Right.
They are busy with Homeland Security, I guess, or the translation.
Right. But the one thing is that Fantune mentioned is that you can go to community centers to get help to fill out the form. And just because we have so much at stake, it's worth it to take a minute to go somewhere and get some help.
How many languages the census, all those forms? Somali, do you have Arabic?
They don't have, well, they have a language guide in Arabic, so like this, but you won't get anything in your home. And I mean, in our area, in the metro area here in Minnesota, we're only going to get the form in English, and some households will get it in Spanish. So
the language guide, where will that find? Online?
We can find it online. We can find it.
You need to know the language.
Exactly. You need to. Online. Well, the one thing is when you go on the Census Bureau, it'll have to the top right. There'll be some languages flashing, and then you just pull a drop-down menu and you pick your language, and then it pops up.
And then it tells you a little bit about it, but you still have to fill the one you get at. You have
to fill the one that you get in the mail, and it's coming soon.
You cannot do it online.
You can't do it online.
Otherwise, everybody will count about 10 times.
Maybe, yeah. But that's the important thing, is to watch for it, because it's coming in the mail in just a few weeks. It's coming between the time of March 12th to March 19th is when we're going to be getting our forms.
How about those people who don't have addresses, homeless, people who are dropped out, wherever? The economy is bad, and a lot of people don't know where they are.
Right, exactly. And I think that's throughout the country. There's lots of pockets of communities that are in that situation. And the Census Bureau has a program, actually, where they're going to come out and count people who are at food shelves, at homeless shelters, and in campsites. It's something that they're calling group quarters program. So they'll kind of go out and count groups of people who are outside.
Any message to your community? Because we have about 5 Somali who watch the show, maybe more.
Count yourself.
Okay.
Be counted.
That's a very interesting concept. Be counted. This is what this country is all about. It's power. Well, thank you so much for coming here, and thank you so much. Be counted, and you know, you have the information online, and if you need any information, let's check our website, and I think it's coming in the mail, 2010 census. Assalamu alaikum, and God bless you all.
العجل مستقيم، ما ياخدوش لا يمين ولا شمال.